Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our PTAC class, Who in the Government Buys What You Sell, or What I Sell. And we are going to be talking about this important topic, a lot of information this morning. Make sure to, as I mentioned earlier, make sure to put the questions in the chat. We'll get to them as we have breaks to do so. Without further ado, let's introduce Leslie Miller, a seasoned PTAC counselor. She's got tons of information and she wants to talk to you this morning about this important topic. So Leslie Miller.
Good morning. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today for our 30,000-foot flyover on everything about market research and strategies that you need to have. And we'll talk a little bit about capability statements towards the end. This is a 2-hour session. And so there's about in the middle, we'll take a 5-minute break for pit stops or whatever you need to, grab a snack or something. So I think that we should be ready to go. Before we do that, though, I see that we actually have a lot of participants, and perhaps if you would just put in the chat your, we know who you are, but the name of your company and maybe what county that you're in. Washington PTAC covers the whole state of Washington. And, I've been working with Kitsap for actually quite a long time now. But we have clients from, Spokane and Vancouver and Tri-Cities and, all over the place. So if you would do that, we would appreciate that. So, all right. Well, are we ready to go? James, are you going to drive the bus or am I?
It's up to you. Whichever is easiest for you, Leslie.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and share my screen. All righty. So everything you ever wanted to know about marketing to the government. And we're going to cover both state and federal entities. All right. Well, it's a little pokey. All right. So a little bit about Washington PTAC. We are actually allocated funds through Congress and the Defense Appropriations Bill. And we have PTACs all across the United States. There's some changes coming down the road for the PTAC offices. We are now under the auspices of the Department of Defense, and they are going to rebrand our organization name to Apex Accelerators. But we have, all the same service that we've always had. And our main office in Washington State is housed in Thurston County. And we have sub-centers all around the state. So overall in the US, there's like about 93 total PTACs that have over 400 counselors. And when we're fully staffed in Washington State, we have about 12 counselors. So what do? We help our small businesses find opportunities. We help interpret solicitations and regulations. We walk you through the certification and registration process, and we teach you how to market to government buyers. And we do this by, we have workshops, we have one-on-one, we have matchmaking, and we have the bid match that James had talked about previously. So today we're going to learn about the 3 Ps. First we're going to learn about planning, and then positioning, and then pursuing. And you can see, what we're going to kind of do in the beginning is talk about how to identify the targets and then move on to how do they know who you are and what all it's going to take for you to be in compliance with what they need as far as your marketing materials. All right, market research. So market research is one of the critical aspects of doing government contracting, and that's right up there with business planning and financial planning. You know, if you're doing any government at all, you know that you have to keep a close eye on your financials and, you know, the bandwidth that you have in order to perform a contract. We also look at networking, communication, and relationships. And one of the things that's important is past performance. You can be a brand new company and still have no government experience that, you know, state or federal, but you have past performance with your own civil clients. So we're going to talk to you a little bit on how you can tweak your information to be competitive. And then lastly, being prepared, patient, and persistent. So let's look at doing basic research. If you, yeah, and these little graphs we pulled from the Hinge Research Institute. And if you do no research, you know, look at the differences between growth and profitability. 2.8 growth to 11% profitability. And then if you look at the occasional, you know, that's a huge difference in growth and increase in your profitability. And then if you stay on top of things and do it frequently, then you will have, you know, up to 33% more growth and 20% increase in profitability. So, you know, it's all about how you manage your targets, you know, what you're looking to do, and, you know, continuing to do that, not just sit back. So the growth starts with smart marketing. And, you know, it doesn't matter if it's direct to the government agencies or working through prime contractors as a subcontractor. One of the biggest issues now is the shortage of talent. And, you know, there's a lot to be said about what's going on. If you have trouble with your staffing, and, you know, you're trying to go after a federal contract, you know, you have to make sure everything is up and running as efficiently as you can. Fierce competition. Everybody's hungry and everybody is looking for a good, lucrative contract, be it state or federal. And there are changes in the way that the buyers find you. And so you have to be aware, you know, and you look back over the last 3 years and COVID and lockdowns and everything is now Zoom, or, you know, we're getting back to in person. But, you know, you have to adapt to the way that the providers are you know, looking for you, and the way that the buyers are looking for the providers. So and then the rising compensation costs, you know, look at inflation and, you know, look at supply chain issues. And, you know, so that applies to both the you know, compensation and price sensitivity. So pricing is really critical, you know, and we're not really going to get into that. We have lots and lots of great classes about, you know, the minutia of direct versus indirect costs, and, you know, how to line things up so that it'll work for you. So let's talk about some of the hot buttons in marketing. So the federal government wants two main things out of you. They want you to be responsive and responsible. Responsive means that you know how to fill out the paperwork correctly and completely. That means getting it submitted on time and signing the bid. Most contracting officers have found that there are still a high number of bids submitted that are not signed, so they are just discarded right off the get-go. A responsible vendor means that you have the capacity to do the job. If you're bidding on, say, a great big bridge over the Columbia River, and you have a pickup truck, a shovel, and one employee, you may come in at the lowest bid, but it seems unlikely that you have the capacity to do the job. So they look at the overall bidder as far as capacity, and that's not just equipment. It's do you have the financial capacity to do the job? Do you have the human capital in-house to do the job? And then moving down to past performance, proven capacity, teaming partners. Maybe you're new, but you're teaming up with somebody that has a lot of agency past performance. Those are all things that you need to consider. And then importantly are the set-asides at the federal level for disadvantaged business enterprises, 8A certification, which is a socially and economically disadvantaged minority-owned company, and the SDVOSB, service disabled veteran-owned small business, Hub Zone, which is historically underutilized business zone, and then the EDWSB, which is the economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. And PTAC can help you figure out if you fit any of these niches, and we can work with you to get you through that. So we're going to look at state and federal. And one of the things to make a determination on is if you're just starting out, who do you want to work for? And what's the best way to accomplish this? The second thing is, at the federal level, you need to have the right NAICS code that the agency wants. If you do not have the NAICS code in your SAM profile, they will not accept your bid. So you have to pay attention to that. Look at appropriate programs. Each agency has a strategic plan and they have forecasts. And, so you have to know if you're dealing with the Navy, is it NAVFAC, NAVC, NAVSUP? Each one, there's some fine tuning differences one to the other, and keep an eye on the OMB watch list. So the research tools that we utilize include at the state of Washington, Washington Webs, it's the Washington Electronic Bulletin System, MRSC, and those two are state of Washington. And Washington PTAC is working very closely with MRSC right now, doing a series of workshops for the agencies at the city, county, and state levels. And the workshops have been targeting the agencies so that they know about the small businesses in the area. And then we follow that up with a small business section where there's like some matchmaking, but between the agencies and the small businesses. Bid match, and James talked a little bit about that. This is a program offered through PTAC that you can set up to deliver you opportunities on based off your keywords or your NAICS codes, and PTAC can work with you to fine tune that to fit your best target audience. GovWin, BGov, Onvia, Set Aside Alert, Subnet, USA Spending. USA Spending is free of charge. Well, most of these are free of charge, but not all of them. USA Spending and the federal FPDS, Federal Procurement Data System, those are free. And those two are absolute workhorses. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So rule number 1, do not take the shotgun approach to marketing. You absolutely need to have a marketing plan. And the first step in doing that is market research. So if you're a really small company and you have great thoughts and ideas about moving forward, let's say with the U.S. Forest Service, and you know that there's some research that needs to be done, I have recommended bringing on board a marketing intern from one of the local colleges, that they can get some real life experience. And sometimes they're free, sometimes they're not free. I know that I was a college professor for years, and at a couple of the main universities over in Eastern Washington, they require internships for their students before they can graduate. So, contact the School of Business for your local college. And, if you need some help on the marketing aspect, and, this could be more than just the market research. Today's marketing interns are also generally very social media savvy, and they know enough about graphic design and layout, so they could help you in any number of ways across the board. And then the next thing is to make sure your marketing materials that you're targeting your audience with meet their requirements. The U.S. Navy has different requirements than the state of Washington Department of Enterprise Services. So if you're not sure what the requirements are, you can connect with Washington PTAC, and we will kind of get you lined up, because today's presentation, there's a lot of information here, and usually what happens after one of these, it takes a little bit of time to digest all this, and then we welcome follow-up counseling visits with you. So just keep that in mind. And then next one is all about networking. And James addressed Alliance Northwest. And that is like one-stop shopping. You want to meet with the federal agencies. You want to meet with state agencies. You want to meet with prime contractors. We have some matchmaking opportunities there. We have a lot of exhibitors, and it'll be a good opportunity for you. It's on March 16th at the Tacoma Convention Center. It's an all-day event. And just be realistic that just because you do all of this does not necessarily mean that you will get a federal contract. One of the more distressing factoids about government contracting is traditionally it takes about 18 months before you will get your first contract. So the better prepared you are, the more research you've done, hopefully the odds will be in your favor. Okay, so when you're marketing, these are the things that they want from you. And they mean federal and or state. And if you're brand new to government, you may not know what a cage code is or a UEI number is. But if you're in business, you have a UBI from the state. The NAICS codes, you really need to pinpoint your NAICS codes. And part of the thing that you want to do in your research is look up maybe your competition who's getting all these contracts and see what NAICS codes they're using. And we can help you, discover how to do that. Certifications. Are you woman-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned, service-disabled vet, hub zone? We can help figure that out for you too. The thing about the certifications is that they're not quick and easy, and it takes a lot of time to actually get approved. So sooner is better than later to start that process if that's what you're looking for. Your past performance, your references, full contact information. Do you take Visa, MasterCard? The government calls them P cards or purchase cards. Include your company background, and especially they want to know the full capacity of the firm and the key employees. If you're a relatively new company, and let's say that you're an engineering firm and you have an engineering background and you hired another engineer who had been in business for 30 years as your key employee, his resume will be critical also. All right, so what's the differences between state and federal government? Most states do not recognize federal certifications. So if you are a veteran, to become a federally certified veteran entity, which, this just changed. It went from the VA now to the Small Business Administration. This does not make you an automatic state of Washington veteran-owned small business. So, and every one of these has that same type of disclaimer. So if you're a minority, the federal 8A certification does not qualify you as a state of Washington minority business enterprise. Woman-owned, federal woman-owned small business or economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business does not qualify you as state of Washington woman business enterprise. And if you live in a hub zone, which is a historically underutilized business zone, and you're certified at the federal level, there is nothing similar to that in the state of Washington. However, the governor of the state can recommend particular counties to be certified. So if you're in a really depressed area that doesn't look like it's certified from the feds, there's another path that could be taken. All right, so let's talk about the Washington State Department of Transportation versus the United States Department of Transportation. And this is the only one that has some similarity. So WashDOT requires a DBE certification, which is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. And if you apply for that at the state level, it carries over to the federal level. So that's the only one that goes both ways. All right, so let's start with Washington State registrations and certifications. So I gave you this little screenshot that I had taken back in 2021, and it's too hard to read. So I transferred it onto a spreadsheet so you could see the data. In 2003, when WEBS was first established, they only had 662 companies listed there. And 43 of those were certified through the Office of Minority and Women Business Enterprises. Those 43 were comprised of 11 minority business enterprises, 20 women business enterprises, and 12 woman minority business enterprises. And there were no veteran-owned small businesses on the roster in 2003. So jump over to 2021, and you can see, the growth between 03 and 21. And then I ran the percentage of difference between 20 and 21, and increases or decreases that you can see across the board. The most notable of all of these is obviously the veteran-owned small business is growing, and it's a good place for small businesses to. The state of Washington veteran-owned small business certification is the simplest of all the certifications, and I highly recommend that this get if you're eligible, that you sign up for this. And one of the things you're going to discover when you're looking at a lot of this stuff at the state, they classify them in 3 areas: small business, mini business, and micro business. So if you're like a single member LLC and it's just you, and you make, I don't know, $500,000 a year, you are classified as micro. If you start growing and you make between 1 and 3 million a year, then you're mini. And then, but small business is less than $7 million. And the 3 consecutive years is a critical thing for all, for a lot of things. They're looking at a rolling average over the last 3 years of gross revenue. But small business can also be certified by the Office of Women and Minority Business Enterprises, and they have a number of other certifications. So, you may be a SBE, a MBE, a WBE, or WMBE, or DBE. So keep that in mind. So I pulled up the registration form for the state of Washington WEBS, and I know it's a little bit hard to see, but this is it. This is all that it asks for. Who are you? What's your company? What's the ownership of your company? And do you have any certifications? And what's your address? And then the other thing is they will ask you to pick your own commodity codes. Excuse me. This is the Office of Minority and Women Business Enterprises. And this one has application fees, and this is listing the certifications that they provide. So up at the top where it says ready to apply, minority women business enterprises, and at the federal level, and these are for the U.S. Department of Transportation only, the DVE and ACDBE. So if you're looking to do airport concessions, you can be certified as a ACDBE. The the SBE is a small business enterprise. And that's for small businesses that do not fit the other classifications. But the important thing is here, this is not free. All the other registrations are free. Okay, so let's talk about the Department of Veterans Affairs. So at the bottom of this, we have the contact information for the Department of Veterans Affairs. And that 51% of the business legally operating in the state of Washington is required. This, what it doesn't say right here, though, is that if you are an Idaho or Oregon company and you are registered in the state of Washington to do business, you can all, it doesn't say that you have to have your company base in Washington. It has to be registered to do business in Washington. So this is the URL for the business registry. And what they need is your DD-214, your UBI number, your NAICS codes, your status as to service disabled veteran-owned small business or veteran-owned small business, and then other documents, like your financials and stuff. And then there's a downloadable decal that you can put on your marketing materials. And it, on the average, only takes like 30 minutes to register. So this is a very quick and easy way to do this. Okay, so Washington State Market Research. And when I put this together, I wanted to make sure that you could just click on these links on the PDF file. So if you are looking at public works for the state of Washington Department of Enterprise Services in construction, okay, that one is right up at the top. Let's say that you are a small business and you're looking at the job order contracts. And let me tell you a little bit about the JOC. They award the prime these contracts on a rolling basis. It's like every 5 years, or maybe it's 4 years, and every 5th year they have to resubmit. But they have 2 large primes that oversee the whole state. And then they have 4 regional primes underneath them. And every one of these primes are required to have 90% of their work done by small business. So if you're interested in job order contracts and you don't want to be the prime, but you'd be happy to be the subcontractor, connect with Washington PTAC, and we have ongoing classes on JOCs. They actually have, like meet the prime contractors. When I was PTAC in Spokane, we would host these events, and the big prime would come in and would get all these little companies in there. It was really a good opportunity. Washington Webs, you can set it up so that they will email you automatically as to opportunities that fit your commodity codes. So when you register for Webs, be sure you set that up so that it'll come to you automatically. MRSC rosters. Excuse me. Okay, so some of you may not know what MRSC rosters is, but this is like the best kept secret ever in the state of Washington. All of those big agencies at like the Department of Enterprise Services, they sell a lot of stuff to everybody. If you're the University of Washington, you go through the Department of Enterprise Services, and maybe you get your office desks there. But if you are a library district in Moses Lake, you would be on the MRSC rosters, and you can look for opportunities in there. And this program is free. And then if you wanted some additional services or opportunities, I think it's like $75 a year to sign up on this. Yeah, because maybe what you do is fire protection, and all you're looking at are fire districts, and maybe they're like regular, your normal little fire districts around the towns and cities and stuff. But if you wanted to do work on the Olympic Peninsula, all the fire stations up there, maybe they're looking for landscapers, or maybe they're looking for kitchenware. You just have to dig down into the MRSC rosters to see who's on there and what they're looking for. So one of the other really good resources is the state of Washington has a data portal. And as a matter of fact, yesterday I extracted a lot of information on there on all of the contracts that have been awarded. And I can see who won the awards for IT services in the year 2022 and how much they were paid. And if I am in the IT industry, maybe I want to be able to sell to the state also. So this is a really good resource for you. Let's talk about the Washington State Department of Transportation. So in here, we have the WashDOT projects, and the main link is washdot.wa.gov, and then the link underneath it are the projects with an interactive map. We also have the Federal Highway Administration resources there, and then the USDOT. And we have also the SBLO Directory and Forecast, which is a Small Business Liaison Officer Directory and Forecast through govconchamber.com. But let's talk a little bit about WashDOT and USDOT. Right now, on the Olympic Peninsula, Hewitt Construction has been awarded the prime contract and for doing the fish passages on the Olympic Peninsula. And it's a 5-year project. Work starts this summer. And James and I and a couple of our colleagues are trying to develop a venue and meet the prime for small businesses to come and talk to Hewitt and see, like I said, if you're doing landscaping, you have heavy equipment, you do gravel, you do concrete work, you do signage. Anyway, they're looking for people like that. This WashDOT project is through the pass-through funds that the USDOT had for infrastructure. So let's move on to colleges and universities. University of Washington has facilities.uw.edu/project/current. WSU has capital operations also. Port of Seattle and then other opportunities within the Port of Seattle. So you know, I've only given you the start of all of these resources here, and you could spend all day on one link. So just be aware. All right, so now let's say you want to sell to the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services. These guys are to the state what Costco and Amazon is to everybody else. They need you to be registered, and they have goods and services bid opportunities that you want to know what's coming up. They also have construction and public works opportunities. Other things that they do, you know, they are looking at the energy program now, leasing property to the state. There's just a lot of stuff that they make available. And, you know, if you're sitting up in the backwoods in Northeast Washington, and you have some property adjacent to a highway or something, and the state wants to, you know, bring in something like when they were doing Highway 395 expansion, you know, there was a lot of property transactions being done there. Some of it was just leasing. So, all right. So, vendor registration, Washington Webs. And these are all hyperlinks. Construction, small works rosters, so you can see who's in there. And you can also take a look at the A&E services pool. And hopefully, you know, your name will be on there. On the goods and services side, everything that's not IT is through this link that I gave you. And then construction and facility consultants. And then, you know, learn about the goods and services. On the construction and public works, this will take you directly to the construction projects or the consultant design projects, and then the upcoming projects. Okay, so we kind of went through just the brief overview of this, but, you know, on the leasing property to the state, you know, how to lease to the state and laws that are required and solicitations. Anyway, there's a lot right here. Maybe you're just thinking about starting a business, and down here on the bottom corner, this business hub will be a really great resource for you for getting started. Okay, so one of the elephants in the room is the Port of Seattle, and they actually have a lot of opportunities for small businesses, and they have a little portal called Vendor Connect that you would want to register your company on. And then they have a series of workshops. One of them is called Port Gen, and I've been involved in that in the last 3 years. And the ones that I did were a 7-week series of classes, you know, 2 tracks, goods and services, and then construction, and you know, a couple hours a day, twice a day or twice a week for 7 weeks. Future solicitations, and they have a very good diversity and contracting team that, you know, if you fit those qualifications, they'd love to work with you. So they work very closely with the Office of Minority and Women Business Enterprises. So they are looking specifically for women and minority business enterprises and the DBE program. And remember, I told you that was U.S. Department of Transportation and Washington State Department of Transportation certification. And because this is the Port of Seattle, the DOTs cover, airports and maritime services. So all the ferries, all the shipping ports. So anyway, there's more information here at the bottom of this screen. All right, so let's talk a little bit about federal market. So why do you want to sell to the federal government? Well, they're the world's biggest customer. They buy everything. In 2019, they spent over $600 billion. Their checks never bounce, and it's open to any business. And who in the federal government is here in Washington State and around Puget Sound? The U.S. Navy, Joint Base Lewis McChord, Housing and Urban Development, the Veterans Administration, the U.S. Forest Service, which is part of the Department of Agriculture, the Small Business Administration, the Defense Logistics Agency, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the General Services Administration, and the U.S. Department of Transportation. So everything about the federal government starts with sam.gov. And if you are not registered in sam.gov, the first thing you should do is contact your PTAC. There's a lot of scammers out there that will get you registered with SAM and get you certified as a woman-owned small business, and it'll only cost you $10,000. But you can call PTAC and we'll do it for you for free. So the Department of Defense is, really looking out after small businesses, and that's why our services are available to you at no charge. So sam.gov has a number of things integrated into it now. If you're an old timer, it used to be called CCR, and no, that's not Creedence Clearwater Revival. It was the I can't remember the nomenclature right now. I'll put it in the chat when I remember it. But anyway, and they were all standalone. Like the contract opportunities, it was fbo.gov. Well, now it's under SAM. The registration is now under SAM. The Federal Procurement Data System is now under SAM. And the Department of Labor wage determinations are all under SAM. And you can register yourself to be the manager of, your entity in SAM. Your company cannot register without having somebody that can log in and manage it. So we can help you through that. So FedBizOps, which was fbo.gov, which is now under SAM, can after 30 days, it's $165 a year. And they cover 41 federal sites, 40 international sites, and almost 2,000 state and local sites. So one of the toughest parts of doing government is figuring out who's looking for you. So we help with that. So market strategy starts with market research. So let's talk about the agency forecasts. So the General Services Administration has a forecast of contracting opportunities. The US Treasury has contracting opportunities. And there are lots and lots of other agency forecasts. You want to only deal with the Air Force or the Army. Make sure that whatever you Google ends with MIL or gov or org. Any .com will probably charge you for it. And the rest of these are available to you free of charge and under the Freedom of Information Act. Kitsap, and I'll have to ask James on this. This was a link that was given to me by his predecessor, and I'm hoping that it's still viable. James, do you have any feedback on this link?
I will check it out right now.
Okay, all right. We'll keep moving forward. Kitsap has, because the Navy sits right there in their front yard and backyard and side yard, they're very, very in tune to what the small businesses need. So this particular PTAC office does an amazing job. Okay, so you want to look up subcontracts. Are there subcontracts? Who's the prime on this, and is he looking for me? And do they do credit card purchases? Let's say I'm an appliance store, and will I take a credit card from the U.S. Forest Service to buy a couple little refrigerators? You just have to look and see what all the methodologies are. Look at GSA activity and master contracts activity. One of the important ones here in the state of Washington are the emergency purchases. And when something catastrophic is happening, a lot of the red tape falls off because they need it now. And to give you an example of this, years ago, I was working out of Snohomish, and there was a big fire on the western slope of the Cascades there. And it was like all hands on deck. Every firefighting facility, was showing up there, including the local fire district. And so after they got the fire out, the contracting officer, had done an inventory of everybody that had been, on the site. And they came back to that fire district and said, we can pay you for your time, but we need you to be registered in sam.gov. And, fire district, you think, why do I have to be registered in SAM? Well, this was really an exceptional event. And once we got them registered in SAM, and they, had their UEI number, at that time, it was still a DUNS number. They submitted a request for payment, and they were reimbursed by FEMA. And anyway, so all the red tape, if you're doing like a personnel transport vehicle, let's say you have an old school bus that you've modified to handle smoke jumpers, and you end up in a place that is, under fire, it would be the same situation for private, if you're doing catering or whatever. look at the Defense Supply Center, and then other websites that I included are the Forest Service, .fed.us business, DLA Mill, that's Department of Logistics Agency, and DIBS, sam.gov. And then I also put in here Oregon, because Oregon and Idaho, you know, they're like our siblings just across the border. So there's opportunities for you in those other areas also. Okay, so now let's talk about the Federal Purchase Data System. So fpds.gov is now embedded in SAM, and I'll give you a little advice on this. You know, when they just transferred all this stuff into SAM, the goal was to make it like one-stop shopping and make it really simple and easy. That's not necessarily true yet, but I think it will be coming. So in hindsight, I kept going back to where I knew it was easy. So I went to fpds.gov and did my research there. And what I really like about this format here is I can sort it by year, I can sort it by NAICS codes, I can sort it by PSC codes, or, you know, agencies or recipients, you know, who won these contracts. I can export this data really easily, and I can filter it out. I only want to see the guys in Washington State that do engineering for the Army Corps of Engineers. And I can do that easily in fpds.gov. And then down a couple bullets on usaspending.gov. That one is very easy to use also. Didn't mean to skip the others, but future agency forecasts, you can look at all the procurement forecasts for all agencies that I may not have listed here. And then on the federal business opportunities, you know, it's now fbohome.sam.gov, or just go into SAM and search, and then the USA spending. And then the one on the bottom is another one that provides so much information and is really easy to use. So this is the dynamic small business search. And in there, okay, I live on the border between Washington and Idaho, and I want to see all of the women-owned small businesses in North Idaho, just to see who I'm looking at for competition. And it'll pull it right up, you know, and I can tell it, well, I just want to see the ones that are in a hub zone, or I want to only see the veteran-owned small businesses with this NAICS code. Anyway, this one right here, I should put a big star next to that one because it's really important. Okay, so where do you find the opportunities? If the opportunities are under $25,000, they are not advertised. So it's all about who you know. Let's say I know the contracting officer out at Fairchild Air Force Base, and I own this little appliance store, and you know, I'll send him an update periodically. We have a brand new shipment of propane refrigerators that they could use, in a remote location, or maybe it's the Forest Service. But, they could walk in my store and buy the refrigerators because it's not advertised. It's all about who if it's under 25,000. If it's over $25,000, then it has to be publicly advertised. And that means it has to go into the Federal Business Opportunities section of sam.gov. And if I am the contracting officer out of the Army Corps of Engineers, and it's at the end of the federal fiscal year, and I have not met my goals on HubZone companies, and I really need to hire somebody that's a HubZone to do some maintenance on one of the stations that we have. They will do what's called a source of SOT. And you can also find these in fedconnect.net. And the bottom one on here, Army does face-to-face industry opportunities. The Walla Walla Army Corps of Engineers Industry Day is March 29th in Walla Walla. So if you're in the area, stop by and see them. Okay, so let's talk about size, dollar size. So it's called a micro purchase, and the upper threshold is $10,000 for supplies, $2,500 for services, and $2,000 for construction. That's direct buy. So how many refrigerators could you buy for $10,000? Quite a few. And can I get somebody to come in and mow my lawn around this rest stop for $2,500? Sure. And the construction one, 2,000, that's the limit. And they can just call up somebody and say, we need this door replaced on this building. We're estimating it'll probably be about $1,500. Can you come in and do it? So keep that in mind. And then the anything over 10,000 up to 25, they're required to get 3 bids on that. One of the interesting factoids, if you're doing your research on fpds.gov, you can actually look at the contract and you can see how many people bid on a project and who it was awarded to. And then on the federal requirement, anything over 25,000 is required to be in SAM. And the simplified acquisition threshold is up to $250,000. So what that does is that tells you anything that's over $250,000 is, goes through a totally different process. And, that's where it has to go out to bid. And, these are all the really big projects. So with that comes how they do this for companies that are in the 8A program. So they can do a single source contract up to $7.5 million for manufacturing to an 8A company. They can do a single source contract for everything else up to $4.5 million. And all these numbers just changed, like in October. And now, if you are a prime contractor, well, let's say you are Kiewit doing the fish passages on the Olympic Peninsula, and it's, like, I don't know, $90 million project. Because it's over $750,000, you have to have a small business subcontracting plan. And in that plan, you have to break down woman-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned, hub zone, set-asides that you are going to do or that you hope to have on your roster to complete this project. And if you fail to meet those numbers, it depends totally on the contracting officer whether or not this is a financial penalty or not. On the single source 8A award up to 25 million, they have to have justification as to why, it's a single source. So there's just one Native American owned small business in northern Montana that specializes in runway maintenance. And logistics would be the justification if it's for Malmstrom Air Force Base up in Montana. Okay, so hub zones. Their hub zone threshold is now 7.5 and 4.5 for the contracts. Single source, same thing on the service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. That was raised up to 7 million for them. And then the all other contracts are 4 million. And then at the bottom, we have the woman-owned small business. And these rules took effect October 15th, 2022. Okay, so how do you want to get noticed? It's important to really review who you're going to talk to, where you're going to talk to them, and you have to pay attention that, it's not your agenda, it's their agenda. So to get noticed, number one rule, be professional. Know the specific niche. Try not to be all things, lead with expertise, be able to prove it, address your capacity, and the most important on here is mitigate risk. So let's talk about some of these. I'm a brand new company and I specialize in, crop dusting. And I've flown a plane before and I just got my license, and I've only done a few projects over the Columbia Basin for a couple farmers. And now I want to have a federal contract for the U.S. Forest Service. The contracting officer, you may have excellent references, you may have total capacity, but have you ever flown over trees? What about an active fire situation? That constitutes risk to them, so you have to be careful how you promote yourself. Okay, moving forward, I took this screenshot from our friends, NAVSEA, and there's a difference between existing capacity and potential capacity. And this is one of those areas that Dave Waltz, who is deputy for small business out of Seaport, he addresses this all the time. And I'm not going to read all of this. You can read through it. And Dave has a series of workshops that he does monthly. And he joined the coffee hour, the monthly coffee hour that Kitsap puts on. So if you can sit in on those, he is a great resource to talk about all the specifics on this. All the what if scenarios. I'm a little manufacturing, and I can put out 100 widgets a week, and I submit a bid to produce widgets, and they want 100,000 widgets in a month. Do I have the capacity? Do I have the potential capacity? Do I have the financial capacity to do that? There's a lot of questions about that. Okay, so where to get noticed? Obviously in person, conferences, vendor outreach sessions, agency and base events, JBLM, Army Corps of Engineers, Fairchild Air Force Base, matchmaking opportunities, associations, social events, from associations, get referrals from decision makers. Let's say that your brother lives next door to a contracting officer, and he heard that they're going to be doing some renovation on their base, on the military base. And, and you told him about, your brother told him about you, and the guy says, well, we'd really like to talk to him. So, it's all about who you know. So keep that in mind. You need to be with today's brave new world of social media, emailing, blogging, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Lord knows TikTok and whatever else there is out there. You cannot ignore it. You need to pay attention to it. So let's talk about who's making the real decisions. The federal acquisition regulations have really rigid policy and processes. It is not top down, and there's 3 layers of decision makers, and the size of the purchase determines who they are, and each layer has different purpose and responsibility. So let's talk about the program managers. They are the technical representative. They are the end users, and these are usually pretty hard to find. So you're going to use the OSDBU and the contracting officer to refer you. An example of this would be like a crew chief. Let's say you're crew chief on the A-10s out at Davis-Monthan in Tucson, Arizona. And every time you have to maintain a aircraft, you have to dump the fuel. And that's a real thing. And geez, wouldn't it be nice if there was another way to do this? And to be honest with you guys, there was a small company in Spokane who had the solution to that problem. And they had an opportunity to show it to the crew chief that was in Fairchild Air Force Base. And it was a game changer for them. No more dumping fuel. What they had, what they call it the vacuum jet, and it extracts the fuel from the aircraft, recycles it within its own body, and then you can pump it back in without losing any fuel. When the crew chief from Fairchild left, maybe he ended up at Davis-Monthan, and he really thought that that would be a good thing for Davis-Monthan. And this was probably like 92 or something. And today that small company has this device on every military base that has aircraft. So keep that in mind. Contracting officers can be identified as a CO or KO. They make legal purchases, and they take total responsibility for the whole thing. Small business representatives are known as OSDBU, SBRs, OSPs, or SBLO. And you will find SBLOs in private industry also. So their goal is to meet this small business criteria on disadvantaged businesses, woman-owned, hub-owned, service-disabled vet. Anyway, they have requirements they have to meet to stay on top of those. And if you're looking for the OSDBU for the U.S. Department of Transportation, just it'll pop up. If you do DOT OSDBU, it'll come up. Okay, so let's talk about your messaging and what you use to deliver it. So you want to, okay, we start at the top, talk to the OSDBU, and your message is that you're a credible vendor and they want to see your capability statement, period. Below that is the contracting officer, and you're convincing the contracting officer that you are a credible bidder. And you do this by an entry email followed up with your capability statements. And if it's in person and they request, you do a presentation, PowerPoint or audio visual presentation. The program manager is similar. You have to tell them that you are experts in your field. So again, an entry email, the capability statements, and then some case studies to back up your product. And then at the very base, here's that crew chief. And we can help you not, dump fuel. And maybe, it was a phone call. But to actually get to the crew chief, you had to get through the contracting officer. But maybe this crew chief plays softball on the weekends and was complaining about dumping fuel, and you said, oh, well, yeah, anyway, but he or she would want your capability statements and the case study. So what are you? Are you a prime contractor? Are you a subcontractor? Or are you a teaming partner? And this is all part of your marketing strategy. Are you the big dog? Or are you the little dog? Can't help but smile at the picture of those two dogs. Okay, so let's see how you can mitigate risk. Create a strong niche statement. We are the only company in the world that makes a device that will extract your fuel, clean it, and reload it. That's your niche. Make sure you have a 20-second matchmaking pitch down pat. create a powerful capability statement. Make sure you list your past performance. And if you're kind of new, be sure to emphasize commercial projects that you've done, not government. Indicate your financial stability, your overall capacity, who you might partner with or who you do partner with, and develop strong solicitation responses. And the number one rule on mitigating risk is if you bid on a project and you did not get the project, there's a 3-day window from the bid award that you have to ask for a debriefing. And that will help you fine tune everything that you do. Yeah, the contracting officer comes back and says, that overall, your bid came in second to this guy. But we felt that his company had a stronger financial profile to withstand the supply chain problems that we anticipate that will be coming down the road. I mean, could be anything like that. Okay, so you need to identify, look at things in the past, who won what, and how much did they get, and what was it for, what's currently going on, and what's the future. So let's talk about vehicles and electric vehicles. If you are a gas-powered car, where's your future? So you have to identify all those. Make sure your capability statement is one piece of paper, front and back, that lists core competencies, experience, company data, and make a decision as to bid or no bid, because it takes a lot of effort to bid a project. And the more experience you get, the better you'll be at identifying who's the decision maker, what's their responsibility, and how interested are they in you. Contract vehicles, not to be confused with cars, how do they get the word out? It's through the GSA schedule contracts, IDIQ contracts, the GWACs, and I mean, there's a lot of different ways the government is looking for or soliciting small business. You should have some kind of a CRM system, contact relationship management program. And it could be an Excel spreadsheet, if you're not very developed, but a way to track, who they are and what agencies they're with. So, and perhaps your marketing intern could create something like this. Maybe you need an accounting intern or a finance intern, but that'll help. So I've been going heavy for the last hour and a half. So let's take a little 5-minute intermission and let you guys take a break, and we'll come right back. Well, welcome everybody out that went out back in, and we'll start up here in another minute or so. Okay, welcome back, and we'll keep going. We have about 30 minutes left and we still have a lot to cover. So this section is all about the capability statements. And there's a lot to this. So again, I highly recommend setting up an appointment with your local PTAC, and I'll have that information at the end of the slideshow. And, but in the meantime, I'm just giving you the 30,000 foot flyover. So here we go. Maybe. All right. So, in order to reach the decision makers, you have to bear in mind that your government registrations are critical. Things like your business card, looking at matchmaking pitches, making sure your capability statement is something you can edit. Pay attention to your website, because your website should have a tab or a section on government. Pay attention to the contract vehicles again. Is it a GSA schedule? You know, what is it? What kind of white papers do you have and or that are out there that you should be aware of? Same thing with case studies, public relations, your CRM system, and advertising. This will help you communicate, connect, collaborate with all the important people. So on your business card, which you know, they are still a thing, but there are now digital business cards that you should be aware of. But your business card, you should use both sides of it. Do not use slick, shiny paper. Make sure your company name, title, your name, all the pertinent contact information. If I have ABC company, does that tell you that I'm a general contractor? Maybe I'm an engineer, maybe I'm a house painter, maybe I'm a consultant, maybe I do healthcare. Make sure it's clear what you do. And now you need to make sure your business cards include your UEI number, not your DUNS, because DUNS is now obsolete for federal contracting. Include your NAICS or your primary NAICS and any certifications that you might have, and if you accept credit cards or, you know, your contract vehicles. So on the matchmaking pitch, you need to have one that is very specific to what the agency wants. And it's important to note that no company does everything, and they don't really like hearing that. So, you know, you need to stay focused on what you're doing. You know, do a reverse pyramid in your matchmaking pitch. I'm a woman-owned small business providing consulting services, specializing in government contracting, and, you know, doing, you know, the best at or different than, you know, and we can help you by, you know, providing our service. All right. Make sure that you use your subject line in your email introduction. And so get to the point, use the company name, identify a compelling reason. You know, is it safety, financial savings, regulatory? Make it a clear request and open the door for future contact. Never say introduce. I'd like to introduce my company to you. You could say, let me tell you what, you know, ABC company has been doing. And then add this line to every email. You know, if I don't hear back from you, I'll try to follow up, and include personal contact information and credentials. It's surprising to me how many emails I get that don't have like the company phone number at the bottom. So just keep that in mind, that contracting officers, they don't have time to dig for that stuff. So make sure that if you're communicating with them, everything is right at their fingertip. I have two websites here that have a really good example of their government tabs, and I'll let you click through these, and, you know, so you can kind of peruse these on your own time to see really what a couple nice ones look like. Okay, website do's and don'ts. Make sure you have a government tab or button, and use government speak verbiage, terminology, include your case studies, be specific. Most government agencies like metrics, numbers. And then why are you so different than the others? And please do not use music or videos, use industry jargon, or hide personnel contact information. So the federal government is all over social media. General Services Administration, the U.S. Army, the U.S. government is on TikTok, which kind of surprised me. U.S. Department of Interior. Anyway, they're there, and if you have an opportunity to follow them, you should do that, because a lot of times they'll be posting things that may be relative to who you are. So in your social media marketing, tailor it to target the agency's primes and teaming partners. And it has to stay active. If you're not doing any updates, why not? So maybe your 12-year-old granddaughter can sit here and update your social media. Look at blogs. There's some very, very successful law firms that PTACs partner with that have some really great blogs, lots of great information all about government contracting. If you'd like some of those resources, just tap into one of us and we'll share that with you. LinkedIn is a really great resource on the professional level. Whatever you do on the other social media, you should make sure you have it on LinkedIn. Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest. So think about the Department of Interior on any of these, on your Pinterest or whatever you want to do, and then news feeds also. So let's talk a little bit about the white papers. So this is just an elementary class on keeping things together and getting, it's like writing a research paper. Make sure that it identifies your product and everything about your company. News releases are actually a thing, and it's not a typical press release that's sent to the papers. What you do is you target government contacts. If you have an ongoing conversation with JBLM and you have a big recognition for your company that they should know about, you can send it to them, like you are, the #1 government supplier of widgets. Maybe they want to know that. And you can send it via email or post it online. And the contract wins, completions, new hires, things like that. Keep that in mind. So let's go a little bit back on the purchase vehicles. And they're very specific on, how to do things in here. So I'm just going to zip by some of this for you pretty quick. Here's our alphabet soup: IDIQ, P cards, GSA, QAC, government-wide acquisition contract, BPA, sorry, too many clicks. And then all of those. And after a while, they just become second nature. And we're sorry we have so many in here, but we're happy to explain to you what they are. 5 elements to get noticed. #1, call it a capability statement. Competencies, contact information, experience, company data, Those are all critical. I have some sample capability statements. Sometimes they are called line cards. And how can the agencies look at you in regards to reducing risk? You can show your experience, your credentials, your training, your elevator pitch. And then from here on down, it's all about some samples. Some of these are pretty good. Some of these are awful. The first thing that jumps out to me, these are two different capability statement covers. The number one issue I see on here, they have government logos on them. And you cannot use a government logo without permission. So what do you think the odds are that they got permission on those? But both of these have a little bit of white space and blocks of information and lots of bullets. And we can dissect these a lot when we do this on our coffee hours with Kitsap. This one here drives me crazy. The colors are awful. The colored font makes it really hard. Anyway, this is a do not do this one. We have rules on the formatting part of it. And I'll just let you read through these at your leisure. Pictures are important. They don't want to have an essay that they have to read. They want bullets and some key pictures. And it's true, there's only 8 seconds that the contracting officer is going to look at this, looking to see if it has their attention. So you have to make it grab their attention. So on here, what do you think? Can you use government logos? The answer is no. Can you use a certified veteran enterprise logo? Yes. Can you name contacts for government contracts in there? That's a good question. I would ask Terry Homburg. Can you chip in here, Terry, and give me your input on this? Are you here? Did he leave? I know he was here.
Hello.
Oh, hi. Okay.
Yeah, so personnel in government agencies turnover is high. There's lots of churn. And so if you identify a person from 6 months ago or a year ago, chances are they're not there anymore. So you just want to identify the office, possibly the phone number, but not the name of the person.
Okay, thanks, Terry. So those of you that do not know Terry Homburg, he is in the Kitsap office, and he's a retired contracting officer for the U.S. Navy. So he's a really great resource for all of us. Yes, use both sides of the paper. Any size paper will work. No, keep it to standard letter size paper. Use QR codes. That's like on the cusp right now. Government agencies don't allow readers, so but maybe that's going to change. I would be cautious on using the QR codes. Use photos, yes. Oh, next one. Use of email such as Hotmail, Gmail, Comcast are fine. The answer to that is no. They want you to have your company domain name. So if it's billybob@gmail.com, it's not going to come or go from their firewalls. If it's billybob@abccompany.com, that's good. but you have to, if you don't have a real email address, you really should look into that. Use bullets, yes. Use words like on time, best. That's debatable. If you talk to Mona, who was a retired contracting officer, the expectation is that everything you do is on time and everything that you do is your best. So we can carry this conversation into the next coffee hour. Fax numbers. Yeah, and for all the, for everybody except for the baby boomers, yes, fax numbers are a thing, and the federal government does still use them. So bear that in mind. Years in business or year established? No. Maybe you were established in 1942 and you're struggling to make payroll and you don't really have the capacity. There's no assumptions based on the business or year. So keep that in mind. The color wheels, that's just a pretty picture, match your logo. Do not use solid colored pages. So fonts, same thing. Keep them simple. If you're doing PowerPoint, it's one thing. On your capability statement, it's another thing. Pay attention to layout and design. You can customize it by having business background or history, but keep it brief and, list your expertise, and talk about your customers. And, it says limit use of government logos. And I need to put the disclaimer on here, only if you have permission. Prioritize your strengths and customer needs. List any special affiliations, licenses, or capabilities. If you are an engineer and you have a PE after your name, that's good. If you are an accountant and you don't have a CPA, a CMA, a CFA, you probably need to tell them that, you're an not a certified licensed accountant. Finishing touches, you should have numerous people review your capability statement and, just kind of take some of this to heart instead of saying we have a large equipment pool, say we maintain over 100 well-maintained forklifts or, something like that. And yeah, this is something that's going to shift and change all the time. So just be aware of that. More finishing touches, make everything consistent, your website, your business cards, your capability statements. Make sure your points of contact are your key business individuals. And it's just what Terry said, that there's a lot of transitions now. And so if your government salesperson is Billy Bob and Billy Bob's name is all over everything, and then Billy Bob leaves, you have to change everything. So maybe contact our government specialist at, abc123@gmail.com, or not Gmail, at abccompany.com. Add images, but don't overwhelm it. Yeah. Don't sell the jockey, just sell the horse. So, if you're a service provider, like a engineer, you are the jockey. So pay attention. So your target audience: agencies, prime contractors, teaming partners, joint ventures, or some kind of a gathering or meeting where the decision makers are all going to be there. And so when do you use your capability statement? For all kinds of things, opening the door, relationships, industry days. And, oh, so if you have an opportunity to do a capability presentation, and you may be able to do this at Alliance Northwest, keep it to only 6 slides if you're doing a slideshow. Well, that's for a 30-minute briefing. So if you have a 15-minute briefing, you only have 3 slides. So, or you have to get through them quickly. Just keep that in mind. All right, so we're getting close to the 10 o'clock hour. And this is who we are. This is Washington PTAC. We are now an Apex accelerator throughout the state. And we have 8 centers for Washington PTAC. There's one little exception up at the very top of the Olympic Peninsula, and that PTAC is a regional PTAC. And if you need to contact them, we have their information on the bottom left-hand corner. It says other PTAC serving. So we have also the American Indian Chamber Education Fund and the Northwest Native Apex Accelerator for natives. So here's the who's who of everybody that you would need to get in touch with. And we have a really terrific team. And actually, if there's something that you ask that we don't really have an answer for, that if you ask me and I don't know the answer, I will check with Terry Homburg or Kara Buckingham or Daryl Sandell, or to get you the answers. So this is me. I'm Leslie Miller, Washington PTAC. This is my phone number, 360-584-6314. And you can email me at leslie@washingtonptac.org. So that's all I got. So any questions that have not already been answered in the chat, we have a few minutes.
It's a lot of information, Leslie.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and the goal is to invite everybody who has any specialized questions to contact us, and we will work with you as a PTAC client. All of our hours are part of our deliverables back to the Department of Defense. So if we work with you, we'd like you to be a PTAC member. So thank you. No cost, no cost.
Yeah,
all right.
It's an excellent resource. It's free, to utilize as a Washington State business. If you are checking in with us from out of the state, we would refer you to your state's PTAC center. You're welcome to take our classes, but we are, we're counselors primarily focused on the Washington State businesses. So a couple of quick notes. I saw that Kyle requested a capability statement template. I'll send that out to everybody that's here. If there are other things that you'd like, send me an email. Again, my email is davis@kitsapeda.org. And as well, what else? Coffee chat. It's coming up here too. So make sure to check in with our other trainings. The next coffee hour is going to be on the 1st of March. So 8 to 10 on that, and that should be a good one. And that's kind of like an open forum to talk to small business liaison officers and PTAC counselors as about the specifics of things that you're looking for. So until next time, I suppose.
Okay, any last questions from anybody else? Okay, Well, thank you for spending your morning with us. And we appreciate everybody's support of Washington PTAC. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely.